What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I was watching one of my buddy's YouTube videos this week, and he had on there a big economics channel, and they were talking about whether or not we could go back to a hard money standard, like basically a silver or gold standard. And one of the guys sat there in the video and was like, "Nah, man, no way, man. Like, there's not enough silver, dude. There's not enough silver." And it kind of seemed to be like, oh yeah, obviously, right? There's not enough.
You're an idiot. And that's the truth, because it takes currency to buy something in a country, okay? Nobody takes gold. And that's another thing. People are always like, oh, we're going to go back to, trading gold and silver. No, you're never going to do that. You want to know why? This is the cool thing. What is it, like less than 1/10 of 1% of the world population has any silver or gold coins. Yeah, there's not even enough of it. Over. Why? Because wealthy people and banks have been buying it for centuries and slowly taking it out of your hands through monetary policy. So get that out of your mind. Anybody that, even on YouTube, building a YouTube channel on, we're going to go back to a silver standard, you have zero concept of how little there is out there.
And this is a fallacy that I made like 10 years ago when I first saw Bitcoin, where I was like, oh, well, there's 21 million Bitcoins. My buddy Ian was to my left. I remember it very well the night that he was like, Trav, there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. And I'm like, time out, flag on the field. How are you going to run a global economy on Bitcoin, bro? What the heck is it? It's like, it's BS, dude. Like, it doesn't work. Well, I didn't realize at the time that, it's divisible up to 8 decimal places. So it's really not about the one Bitcoin. It's really about like the 8 zeros behind it. And so if you do that and you look at it in terms of Satoshis, everything's fine, because it's not about how much of an item there is. I mean, we could run an entire economy on 12 M&Ms as long as we have decimal places and an ability to trade them. And the belief that, oh, these are hard and impossible to remake and like they're rare and whatever. You can run an economy on almost anything, because it's not about whether or not there's enough quantity to go around. It's about at what price the asset is priced at. So it doesn't matter how much gold there is. It matters about the price of gold. The issue with gold is, an ounce of gold is going to be $1,800. So if you want to go buy literally a pack of M&Ms, you're going to need like a tiny little sliver of it, and then you're going to have to maybe laminate it and have it like in a, in like a trading card type of piece to physically trade it. Well, if you've got it where, it's digital form and it's sitting in a vault somewhere, and you've got a vault chain that's basically a blockchain that's acting as a vault, where an individual could also take delivery if they chose to, just kind of pay a delivery fee and have it delivered to you, But as far as, can you go onto a gold or silver standard or a Bitcoin standard? Is there enough? And the answer is absolutely yes. It's not about the quantity, it's always about the price. And so I thought that was interesting, because I made this wrong assumption. And at the time, I didn't understand the history of silver or the history of gold, and what's made those two currencies very popular throughout time. I mean, we've had like 5,000 year history of using those two items in conjunction with copper for those different options, because copper had a lower value and it was easier to carry with you for your smaller items like groceries and things like that. Silver for your larger items, gold for your land purchases and things like that. Is a day's labor in the Roman Empire, and we're talking the Roman Empire had like a good 1,000-year run there. So you're talking about 1/10 of an ounce of silver. When you do the math from what a denarii was, a denarii is about 1/2 ounce, what a day's labor is. It turns out to be what we would see as about 1/10 of an ounce of silver, about a 1 mercury dime. So if you looked at someone that's making $50,000 a year and you were to pay them completely on a silver standard globally, that person would be making about $200 a day. Silver would be about $2,000. Gold would be appropriately priced at $15,000. And the reason for this is, if you take the entire US money supply and you take what we have in Fort Knox and West Point, what we claim to have, you're looking at $15,000 gold, which is basically pretty appropriately priced. Silver, if you're looking at a mining ratio of 1:7, 1:9, somewhere in that range, you can safely assume that, like, okay, in a world of $15,000 gold, you got $1,500, $2,000 silver. Now, I know at the moment that stuff is like $25 plus a premium, maybe $30 into your hand. And people are like, bro, that's insane. But it's like, no, if you wanted to utilize that as the currency. And I'm not saying that there's not a central banker or a president or a congressperson or a political anyone anywhere in the entire world that wants to be constrained by a metal hard cap. There's not a single politician in the world that wants to be constrained by an algorithm that dictates there's only 21 million Bitcoins. There is no institution in the world that wants to lose the ability to just print money out of thin air and put it into circulation and take all the goods and services and resources for themselves at the expense of inflating it. But what's important to understand here is that if you were on a hard standard, I don't care if it's anything that is hard to manufacture. Like I said earlier, it could be M&Ms if you could supply cap it, all right? Or if you could say like silver and gold for years and years in history, they typically grew at about 3% a year as far as the supply. And the economy, most economies grow at about 3% a year as far as the supply. And so as far as like how large it expands. So it is completely and totally possible to run an economy on any hard cap constraint. It's just a matter of price. And so I don't think it's popular or anyone has that opinion that we're going to go ahead and do that at this moment in time. But it is completely possible. And if that were to occur, you would go through a terrible period in history, human history. But if that were to occur, that's basically what you'd be at. You'd be at a tenth of silver. If you wanted to use silver, it'd be about a tenth of an ounce of silver would be a day's labor. Day's labor, average salary, I don't know, $30,000 to $50,000. You're looking at somewhere between 150, 200 bucks, give or take, for a tenth of an ounce of silver. If you wanted to use silver as your hard cap supply. The nice thing about mining currencies is that it's not completely supply capped. So it's always kind of correlated nicely. The last part of this is that it's important to understand that technology in nature is deflationary. And so if you have a hard cap currency, no matter what it is, I don't care what it is, but if you have a hard cap currency or a currency that grows with the rate of the economy, you should always see falling prices. And so that old grandma saying of like save money for a rainy day is actually a good idea at that point, because as time goes on, you should be able to buy more and more stuff with your money. Unfortunately, we live in a world where technology is deflationary. And so as prices are falling down, they seem to be rising because our elites continue to print and they take that technological gain for themselves. And so what happens is you have technology lowering the cost of goods and services and communication like this all over the world every single day, creating value. And our elites print just enough to have a 7% inflation rate, even though technology is bringing it down 10, 15, 20% a year. But they print that 15, 20% and then that 7%. And take it for themselves. And if you look at a map of the wealth distribution, it is all over the freaking board. As far as like the 1% own half of the country, the 10% own like the other like third of the country, and then everybody else owns the other part. These events in history don't go well. We probably have maybe a decade and a half before something really, really bad happens. But as we see the wealth gap grow larger and larger, and we see more and more control in society, we could get back to a reset event where we go back to a hard currency. The Bitcoin people are always pushing for it. And if you do end up using Bitcoin as a world reserve currency, like you're not even talking about $1 million Bitcoin, you're not talking about $3 million Bitcoin. You're talking about multiples of millions of dollars of Bitcoin per Bitcoin. So divided by the Satoshis, can each one of those Satoshis have what we deem today to be 10-cent value or $1 value? Absolutely. Based on current pricing, it's just a matter of price. And so it's not a matter of supply, it's a matter of price. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and as always, I will see you down in the comments.